I'm Pam Demore, and I'm going to show you how to use one of my favorite feet, the 3-groove Pintuck foot. I love the Pintuck. It's a great way to use your twin needle sewing. It's a great way to make trims right on a project where you don't have a trim. And you all know trims are expensive. This is a great way that you can make trims yourself using the 3-groove Pintuck foot and your twin needle. So on my machine, I have a 3mm twin needle. I'm going to put the Pintuck foot on. I first just want to show you how the Pintuck foot is designed to work, but then I kind of always kick it up a notch. So I'm using just a piece of demo fabric here to show you how this wonderful foot works. And I'm using a little bit thinner fabric, just a regular, like a quilting weight fabric, and I picked a solid so it would show up. Just kind of sew just a little bit here to show you. And you can see the raised Pintuck here. Now, if I were going to do this on a heavier fabric like this little project right here, what happens is because it's a thicker fabric, you don't get that raised effect. So what I want to do is use the same feature, but I'm going to stuff it with the Pintuck cord. So this Pintuck cord is a tiny little cord. You can use it as a micro welt. It's a little smaller than the micro welt. It's a 1/16 of an inch instead of the 1/8 inch. It's about half the size of the micro welt, but it's also great for using this foot. So if I wanted to use this to do a stuffed Pintuck next to these two ridges, what I would do is I let the foot, see the grooves in the foot? I'm going to lay one of these edges right here on the foot, and what's going to do is it's just going to perfectly guide it so that these edges are parallel. So let me just show you. Put the foot back on, and with the Pintuck cord underneath, and again I'm going to tie a little knot so it doesn't slide out on me. I'm going to put this underneath, and I'm going to lay that right next to here and put my foot down. Just make sure that's underneath. There we go. And now we sew. And what happens is the cord will stay right here. I use my stiletto a little bit to guide that. The cord's going to stay right here. And see this there's a little notch. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little notch right there. That shows you where the other groove is. So I'm going to, that groove is going to hug this trim right here that I will show you how to make in just a minute. But it's going to hug that. So now I can sew. And the cord is going to stay in the groove underneath. So it's creating the effect of being a braid that's actually made right on the fabric. Oops. Did you hear that thumping sound? That's because my cord caught underneath there and it was making it a little bit thicker. It was sewing through the thickness of that. So I'm just going to rip a little bit of stitching out, just where it kind of went a little skew. Okay. And we'll just start all over. Put it back in place. And again, continue to sew. But if it makes a funny sound, just stop and take a look. Often when I'm teaching, someone will be sewing something and I'll hear a clunking sound. I'm like, stop sewing! And we're just going to follow this around. Again, I have a 3mm needle in here, which is wide enough for the fabric to wrap around the cord as we sew. And there you can see the raised Pintuck corded edge trim there. Okay, so I'm going to cut that. And I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about twin needles because a lot of people are kind of confused about, can I use a twin needle on my machine? Here's a simple fact. If your sewing machine does a zigzag, which most all machines do now, if you have a machine that does a zigzag stitch, any zigzag sewing machine can be a twin needle sewing machine. You just need to thread it with 2 needles. So the twin needles come with 1 pin at the top and then 2 needles at the bottom. And they come in varying sizes. So I just have some examples. I'm using the 3, which is this one. It's got a little bit bigger gap. The ones that come with your machine come in a little package like this, and they're generally going to be a 2. Here's another one that's 2.5. And I'll just put the 3 of them together so that you can see the difference. And the reason why I chose the 3, and they come in wider gaps too, but you'll see I want that cord to fit easily in between with the fabric to be wrapping around it, and you can see that that does work. Where this one, the 2.5, would be a little small, and then the 2.0 would be way too small. So this would work very well. And the way that you would do this is you just thread. If you thread your machine, you just take 2 threads, and one goes to the right needle and one goes to the left needle. And it's very easy to use. And twin needles give you great stitching effects. So it's nice that you can get the parallel stitching without having to sew through it twice. And let's look at the back side so you can see what the back side looks like. See how it has just a zigzag on the back. Okay, so whether you're doing a corded pin tuck or just a regular pin tuck, you play with the different twin needles to see which one will work best for your project. So 2 things to remember about twin needles, and that one of them is if you're used to using a needle threader like I am on your machine, the needle threader won't work. It doesn't line up with a twin needle, so you'll have to thread it the old-fashioned way. And then the other thing is when you're picking out your twin needles, you need to look at the numbers on the packaging, because there's 2 numbers that you need to look at. And the first number is, and I'm just going to point at this with the twin needle, the first number is the gap in millimeters between the needles. So this one says 2.0 and then it's /80. So this is a 2 millimeter gap, and the size of the needle is 80, which means it's a finer needle. This one is a 3 with a 90, so it's a little bit heavier needle, the one that I've been using. So that also tells you what size that you're doing, so you know the needle size and the size of the gap. And the last thing I want to point out is when you're sewing with a twin needle, you want to tell your machine that you have a twin needle. So we have an icon here that can be a single needle or a twin needle. So when I touch the twin needle, the machine now knows. So if I go to do a decorative stitch, it's going to tell me whether or not I can do it. So if I go to touch this stitch, it says this function cannot be used while the machine is using twin needles. Cancel twin needle mode and choose this function again. So it tells me already if you've used the twin needle, this isn't going to work. And here's what you need to do too. There's some stitches you can do in twin needle. For example, if you wanted to do like a scalloped edge here. But keep in mind, if you're using a needle wider than the 2 millimeter that it comes with the machine, just if you do the stitch before you start sewing, just take your hand wheel and go through the complete needle pet program so that you can see if those needles are going to be too close to the edge. Because if it's a 5.0 needle width, a 5.0 width, and you have a 7.0 spacing here, and you're using a 6.0 needle, you're not going to be able to do it. If you've got a 4.0 needle, you're not going to be able to do it. So you need to just adjust it and make sure that you're going to have enough space to get those 2 rows of stitching in and to get that decorative stitch in for you. So it does have a little safety feature there for you, but you do need to kind of watch it a little bit. Just test it to make sure. You don't want to break a needle and snap it off. You want to make sure that it's going to work for you and you're going to have a good project. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more classes, tips, and techniques, visit me at sewathomeclasses.com.